We'll start the Rules Committee meeting for our September meeting. And at this time, Dora, would you please bless the meeting?
Dear gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. And Father, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. I thank you for the uniqueness that we all are a citizen of two great nations, and we ask that you bless us as we go through our meetings and keep us all safe. For it's in Jesus' name.
We'll go to council members. Roll call, Shelley.
Joe Bird.
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Carter Bezer.
Here.
Julia Coates. Sean Crittenden.
Aye.
Joe Deere.
Here.
Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Rex Jordan.
Here.
Darrell Legg.
Here.
Wes Snowfire.
Aye.
Dora Petzkowski.
Here.
Mike Shambaugh. Mary Bakershaw.
Ani.
E.A. Smith.
Aye.
Denise Taylor. Here. Victoria Vasquez.
Aye.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the minutes were mailed to you. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion they be approved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Reports, Marshall Shannon Buell is not here today, but we do have a good substitute here.
Hi, I'm Scott Craig. I'm one of Shannon's captains. Shannon is in a meeting in the Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office and asked me to step in and see if there's any questions or anything about the report that I could help you with.
Any questions for our marshal? Yes, Councilor Crittenden.
Thank you, Speaker. Had someone ask patrolling marshals. How many are there actually patrolling? I know there's 30-something total.
There's 32 total. We have 6 in investigations, 4 in administration. So I'm going to say roughly 18 to 20. I'll have to look to make sure, but I think it's 18 to 20.
12 wouldn't be right, would it?
No, I don't believe so. I think it's more than that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll get you that information this afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Shambaugh.
Can I talk to you shortly after?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I had a request from a school administrator in at Oak School.
Okay.
If you would or could, they just wanted someone just to be visible sometimes.
Okay.
And I think we have a cross-deputization in the county, correct?
We do.
Just, they said, we really appreciate, said everything's going good right now, but, if they just had some vehicle drive by every so often, just to make sure things are in place.
Make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
Anybody else? Good report.
Thank you.
Office of Attorney General, Chrissy Nemo, who seems to just keep getting all these awards every time I pick up a paper.
Thank you,
Chrissy
sir.
Nemo, most likely to succeed, and was the new alum of the year, all of that stuff. Congratulations.
So I don't know how young, it's just you had to have graduated from college less than 20 years ago, so this really make me young. But a few comments / updates. Our ICWA case in the Fifth Circuit, the other side asked for an extension of time to file for rehearing. The court gave them until October 10th, so they will be asking, and we don't know if they'll be asking the same panel to rehear it or the entire panel to rehear it, but they will be filing something seeking rehearing on that. And so it's no change at this point, but it's out there. I think since I was last here, we had the decision in the UKV Land Trust case. I know that AG Hill did a memo that was shared with Tribal Council on that. We are currently considering what our options are regarding rehearing and or appeal. Because it is pending litigation, I can't really have a discussion today about the issues or options. If anyone has specific questions, AG Hill has told me to ask you to contact her, and she'd be happy to discuss it. She says she's talked to several tribal counselors about the case already. Gaming, compact, letters, media, things that everyone sees and hears, no real change there. It remains a position of the tribes that the compact automatically renews. It appears that it remains the position of the state that it expires, and nothing additional has happened there. I did receive the letter from your council regarding election code revisions, and I forwarded that to AG Hill. We don't have a draft. I can tell you that it is something that we are working on. It has been a priority for the chief and therefore a priority for the AG. We understand that there need to be election code revisions. Specifically our office, because we were involved in so many of the issues that come up. We know areas that we believe need to be addressed. Obviously, I know there's something on the agenda to talk about that today. Want to work with council, but these are big issues and it's going to take some time. The area of campaign finance, dealing with PACs and dark money and those types of things that we have had to deal with are complicated, and our code has failed to kind of keep up with other state and federal areas. So trying to write law to address those things takes a lot of time, and we are happy to assist in whatever way council wants us to in addressing those issues, and everyone understands that we've got to do something sooner rather than later, but it's priority in our office. It's something we're working on, and we will wait to hear from you all on how you want us to assist you on that.
Appreciate that. What usually takes place every 2 years, you have an election, then you have the council members come on board with those codes and policies, and it's okay then. But 6 months to a year down the road, we go, wait a minute, now we have issues here. So, many recommendations for several council members wanted to put this on the agenda early. So, and that's fine, we're doing that. And we've got recommendations that we will compile, as well as the Election Commission should be getting those to us as well. So we appreciate
I believe there was a response yesterday from the Election Commission, and we got that as well.
Okay.
I can tell you that we have, over the years, noted things that have been issues, and it is something that we're committed to working on you all with, and but we don't have anything ready right now. So.
Okay, all right.
And I believe that's it for me. I'll take any questions that anyone
Any
has.
questions for Attorney General? Yes, Council Crittenden?
Yeah, on the UKB, I know it's still in the court. Now the Attorney General's office, they're gonna make a decision. When did you say, or you're working on making a decision?
Considering options. There are some specific deadlines on when you can, if you're asking for a rehearing, either by the three that decided it or the entire group. The general deadline for that is 30 days, although as in the ICWA case, a similar situation, you can ask for an extension of time. If you are seeking the Supreme Court to hear a case from a circuit decision, the general timeframe is 45 days, but there you can also ask for an extension of time. So
The options are, there's options, right?
Yes.
And you guys are considering it, and I guess you would consider any of the council opinions or stances on that when you're making your decision.
I think if you have comments or questions or opinions on that you should contact AG directly, and I have no doubt that she would take into consideration any information that you want to share with her.
Okay, so you would take into consideration there,
And we are, this case, we have always had outside counsel on, and
let me ask you if one of those options is just leaving them alone. Is that one of the options that you have on the table?
I think that is an option. I don't know that that's
Good.
on the table.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Good report?
Thank you.
No movement on the Murphy.
No, and it is, real quick, because I don't know if I updated you all on this. So they have now released the argument calendar for the remainder of this year. So cases that are set for October, November, and December are already listed at the Supreme Court. So, and the case has not been relisted. So they will not hear this case until at least February, because it's not on the current schedule. So it continues to, waiting on the court. So.
Well, I guess no news is good news so far. Okay, Gwen Terrapin.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
To date, we've got 35 total requests. We had a new FOIA request come in, and that one's outstanding at this time. So we had 16 FOIA and 19 GRAs. And all of you should have gotten a copy of it. I apologize for the lateness of your receiving the report. I was ill a couple of days this week. But the website's been updated. And again, I want to thank IT because they always jump right on it as soon as I send it to them. And I appreciate that. So,
Any questions for Gwen? Good report, thank you. Someone here from Tax Commission? You can always count on Sharon.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
I believe you have my report. I'll try to address any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions for our Tax Commission? Councilor Crittenden?
Yes. Sharon, was you still kind of working on some of those numbers?
Yeah.
About the other places?
Yes.
Right, yeah. And you've been an angel when I call you with, you know,
Right.
a request of thank you. I know you're working on it, but is there a month or two maybe we can look at some of those numbers or something?
Yes. And what you're wanting to know is numbers of citizens and how much it's going to cost to put another building.
Right, and you're kind of doing your own feasibility thing,
Yes.
right? Okay. All right, I look forward to it. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Anybody else? Good report.
Okay, thank you.
Gaming Commission? Jamie Hummingbird? Going once? Twice? Okay, didn't hear anything. Did you hear anything, Sheldon?
Well, said he was traveling up there whenever we were in Tulsa. I thought he said he was going to be out of town.
Okay. He usually sends somebody, but we're good. Human Resources. Mason Morton.
Good afternoon. Mostly what we're doing in HR right now, on top of the normal business, is finishing out end of the year. Start with a whole new fiscal year. And so all the paperwork that's required to go with that. So basically just pushing paper and pushing electronic EA into the system. I have submitted a written report. Does anyone have any specific questions that I can work on or follow up with?
Yes, Counselor Shaw?
Mason, I have a question. I give out my personal cell phone number all the time because I didn't take a tribal phone, and it is the only phone I have. And I want to know if an employee gives out that phone number to help another employee or a patient, is that grounds for termination of that employee?
To give out your phone number? Is this a specific case
No,
that's pending, or is
I don't
this
want
just
anyone
a?
terminated for giving out my cell,
Oh,
because I
okay.
give it out all the time. I mean, every time I speak at events, I give out my cell phone. I want people to contact me.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to make sure that's not grounds to terminate someone.
For giving your phone number?
Right, right.
I wouldn't see how that could be.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Good report.
Thank you very much.
No old business. Moving to new business. Resolution number 1. Counselor Legg, would you take that?
Resolution confirmed.
Resolution confirming the renomination of Carrie Philpott as a member of the Cherokee Nation Registration Committee.
Second.
I put that forward for motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Counselor.
Yeah,
Legg.
my name is sponsor on this one.
Yes,
Same with me, Shelley. Sean?
Okay. Is Carrie Philpott here?
Yes.
Would you just please stand? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, you got anything to say?
Don't think so. I want to thank everybody.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, number 2, Counselor Austin, you take that?
Gladly. This is a resolution confirming the renomination of Farrell Prater as a member of the Cherokee Nation Registration Committee, and I proudly put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is she here? Would you please stand? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, you have anything to say, Ms. Prater?
It has been a privilege to serve on the Restoration Board, get better acquainted with the tribal people that I did not know. I really enjoy going to the districts and meeting all the different people. Had wonderful supervision, and I appreciated that, and thank you so much.
Okay. Number 3, Counselor Duncan, you want to take that?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Valerie Rogers as a governing board member of the Cherokee Nation Comprehensive Care Agency, and I put that in form of a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Is she here? Aye.
Speaker, I believe she had a previous appointment that she wasn't able to miss.
Okay. All right. Well, she's good this time. Number 4, Counselor Shaw, would you please take that?
Yes, it's a resolution confirming the appointment of Brandy Payton as a governing board member of the Cherokee Nation Comprehensive Care Agency, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Got a motion? Second. And a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Counselor Dobbins, would you take number 5?
Resolution confirming the appointment of Wayne Caldwell as a board member of Cherokee Health Partners. I put that in the form of a motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Okay, are Wayne Caldwell here? Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, you have anything to say? Good. Counselor Jordan, would you take number 6?
Yes, this is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Brian Hale as a board member of the Cherokee Nation Health Departments, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? And Brian is here. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Brian, you have anything to add? We appreciate what you do. Okay, number 7, Counselor Nofire, would you please take that?
Yes, it's a resolution confirming the reappointment of Ricky Kelly as a board member of Cherokee Health Partners, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? And Rick Kelly is here. He's been with us for some times and does an outstanding job. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Number 8, Counselor Vasquez, would you take that?
Yes, sir. A resolution confirming the reappointment of Dr. Roger Montgomery as a board member of Cherokee Health Partners. I move for its approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion, and Dr. Roger Montgomery is here.
Be down as a
Can you add my name to the
Sponsor.
sponsor?
Mine too, please.
Mine as well.
And mine, please.
Okay. You have that, Shelley? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, number 9, Counselor Taylor, would you please take that?
This is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Amy Sams as a board member of Cherokee Health Partners. Put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Amy, is Amy here?
Yep.
Okay, there she is. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Counselor E.O. Smith, would you take number 10?
A resolution confirming the appointment of Dr. Stephen Jones as board member of the Cherokee Health Partners. I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Put me in a sponsor on that.
Okay, sponsor.
Same as well for me, Shelley.
Okay. Dr. Jones, we appreciate you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, and I appreciate the confidence this body has in this team we put together to look out for Cherokee Nation's best interest.
Okay. Item number 11, Career Readiness Act. Counselor Shambaugh, would you please take that?
This is the Career Readiness Act, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second. We got a motion and a second, and we have Miss Diane Kelly here. Would you just briefly explain that?
I'll
in
defer
a
to the
short
chief.
narrative?
I was getting ready to defer to Diane. and I will defer to Diane because so much of the implementation of this obviously will be in the hands of Career Services. But what this does is takes, it authorizes, you all have to appropriate it, but it authorizes an additional $1 million in excess of what we already have appropriated for career readiness programs. Are just kind of defined broadly, and it can be anything from the building trades to information technology to healthcare. Basically, what we either don't cover or what we cover, but the federal funds constrict us in who's eligible. And it just it's really designed to catch the people we're not helping. But in terms of filling in those blanks, I mean, my sense was Career Services, takes these applications all the time and sometimes has to tell people no because they don't qualify or they don't fit that program. And so we want to make sure we catch those folks. And my philosophy about any of this legislation is we improve it as we go along. We just want to make sure it meets that mission that I think we all kind of share, which is we want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind. I mean, we're going to continue our commitment to college scholarships. We're going to continue with the federal programs we have, but I think we also agree we need to do something more to catch those folks that maybe fall through the cracks that want to work. We just need to give them the tools to get to work. So Diane can certainly get in the weeds.
Well, we're actually rolling out the construction trades next week because most of the schools started in August. We're a little bit behind the gun on this, but we are going to have a lot of the classes starting in the next semester in January, and then they're on out for the next several years. Construction trades, because we have housing needs that are going to need to be met, and then we also have rehab needs. We're working on lead-based paint training. We're doing construction and plumbing, masonry, electrical, and carpentry. Those are the 4 areas. And then if they want to specialize in them, then they can go on to further training. Most of these classes will be in the evening. They're customized training classes. They're short-term, so that way they can get a feel, so they can actually go out there and work in a labor position. And if they want to build a career ladder, then we can work with them to do that so that they can get specialized or get their license in a specific area. We are also going to be working with the IT department. Todd Gord is working with us, and he's going to identify areas that we're going to need help with for over the next several years. So we're going to be doing some training in IT. We're also going to be doing some health areas. Dr. Montgomery and his team reached out to us, and Brian Hale, and they gave us some areas that they're going to need help with in the health area. And I believe it was you, Councilwoman Taylor, that asked about the medical coding. I have checked with the Career Tech programs, and there are some in the daytime that are geared for 11th and 12th graders, and if they have some slots that are open, we will notify people that are interested in that so that we can plug them in there. But we are looking at doing some customized training in the evening for maybe people that are actually working, that are interested in bettering themselves.
And Mr. Speaker, if I could, and Diane and I have talked about this separately, but there are other fields that some council members have mentioned. One of them is lineman training. I mean, you make a good living as a lineman, and I think one of the places you can get training at is OSU Okmulgee. That was raised last time. That's certainly included in this. I just think we evaluate and we see what the demand is, and not just the demand overall on the budget, but the demand for a particular field that might be in demand. So.
Good program. Councilor Taylor, you want to make a comment?
I just want to say that I appreciate this emphasis in this area. We have been, not Cherokee Nation, but the United States as a whole has been pushing every kid to go to college, and every kid is not made for college, and these jobs are good jobs. And so I appreciate you recognizing the fact that not everybody wants to go to college. Thank you.
Councilor Shambo?
I agree with Councilwoman Taylor. First time. I'm going to agree with Councilwoman Taylor, that's right, on record. But, this is a great program because, we reach those, this is a way to reach those people who, whether they can't afford to go to college, whether they don't want to, but this does give them an opportunity to find out, that, hey, you know what, this is something I can do, and it is attainable. And, and a lot of doing things like this has a lot to do with confidence and a little bit of opportunity. So I think this is a great thing for a lot of people that, they want to go out and they want to get a job, and this gets them jump started. I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
Councilor Duncan?
I just want to clarify, did I hear that correctly that we're going to be doing on-the-job training for this to go hand in hand with our Housing Sustainability Act?
Most definitely.
That's great news. That's awesome.
Very good. Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Smith?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see on that nighttime training, the numbers on that. I bet that will be bigger than what we think it is.
We'll be glad to give you all a report at this time next year as to how successful it was and how many people actually got jobs as a result of it, or how many actually wanted to go and further their career and do something more.
Yes. Councilor Crittenden?
Yeah, and if someone comes with a job that don't necessarily fit in the mold that we're starting with, Cherokee Nation has the ability to kind of work through that if the demand's there for that particular position.
Yes, we also have those career literacy centers, the adult education programs. If somebody comes in and they're lacking in the math area, or if they need some help in tutoring, those offices will be available to them as well.
Yeah, making sure I understood that right. It's a great deal. Appreciate it.
And I think as long as our general philosophy stays that if a Cherokee wants to work, and it's just a matter of training to get them to work, then this should catch it all, in my view. And if we have to tweak it as we go, we will.
Yes, Councilor Deere.
Just real quick, is it this income requirements, where we at on that? Are we just?
Well, we don't have any income requirements in the legislation, and when you get into no income requirements, you do have to be concerned about sustainability in the budget. But my view is we don't know until we get into it. And if we get into it and it's such a huge bite, we all have to make a tough decision to pump up the funds or to restrictions. But I would like to the largest extent possible, get away from restrictions and just try to connect people with work in any way we can. The long run will be money ahead, but obviously we have to work fiscal year to fiscal year, make sure we're sustainable.
Right, and Diane, you're still talking about some people that have taken one class. They might have 2 certificates, 3 certificates, and you're still looking at that. That's going to still maintain the same?
Yes, sir. We will use our federal dollars for the programs when they come in, and we'll look to see whether or not they qualify for one of those programs. And if they do, we'll use those federal dollars so that we're not actually using our tribal dollars first, because we have a limited amount of time that we can use those federal dollars.
Yeah, that was just my 2 clarifications. Besides that, I think it's a great move. Progress is going forward, just like you talked about. I think it's a great move. Thank you.
I was just going to say, Joe, that a lot of times whenever you have with career services, they're so short term that there's no pay, there's no financial aid available for anybody. So it kind of does fall on us to cover the cost. Even if you make $100,000 a year, that you've got all your bills to pay, you still can't afford maybe a $1,500 tuition for your kid to go through a specialized truck driving training all at once. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, with the data that we have now, we're spending close to $16 million in higher ed, sending 5,000 kids to higher ed school. Yeah, I think this is going to be a great program to catch those that are falling through the cracks, that want to not get in that type of debt with those student loans. So this is going to be a great program. I have faith in it. So, Chief,
we're excited.
This is a good concept.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Councilor Buzzard.
Yeah, this is a program that's been needed for years and years at the Cherokee Nation. I'm certainly glad to see that we got a grant for it. And Diane, can you remind me what the total amount of the federal grant was?
The federal grant, well, there's several programs. I think we've got about $7 million in the opioid grant. We've got about 7 to 8 in the retail, folk rehab. I think there was about 5. I can't remember, but they're over like 2 or 3 years to spend all that. And then, of course, we have the Job Corps dollars, which is a contract. And then we have our $102,477, which is also for training. And that's George Roach's program. And once they go through the customized training, if someone wants to be a plumber and he wants to get his apprenticeship or his license, then he will shift over here to George's program and work toward that one.
Okay.
But I didn't give you the amount, and I apologize. I have to figure it out.
Well, for some reason, I thought we had a specific grant for this readiness program.
Oh, the readiness
6 million.
program? It's $1 million.
Oh, for this, yeah.
1 million.
It's $1 million.
Authorizing no less than
I'm
$1
sorry.
million. But those are, those, if I could, Mr. Speaker, are effectively gen fund dollars, but we'll always spend the federal dollars first, for sure.
I'd like to be added as a sponsor on this program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank everybody as a sponsor at this time.
I need to be added as a sponsor, make sure
Me
that
too.
we're all sponsors.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Yes, this is number 12. Councilor Paskowski, would you please take that?
The Durban Feeling Language Preservative Act, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Chief, would you explain that just a little bit of what this is?
Certainly. So this is legislation that would authorize the use of up to $5 million to basically renovate the old casino to consolidate all of our language programs under one roof. There's people who are expert in the language, and I'm looking at Mr. Payton, will say that, if the more we can get together with our language programs physically in close proximity, the better the process and results are. So that's the biggest shot in the arm for this fiscal year, but an additional $1.5 million so that we can do a quadrupling of the Master Apprentice language programs. And then there are some additional language efforts that have already been on the minds of people that work in the language at the Cherokee Nation, Roy Boney, Mr. Payton, others, but they just need the funding to bring that to fruition. So that's what this does. It also establishes a cabinet position, and I do want to be candid with you, as always, Mr. Speaker. I do not have anyone in mind, and I'm not on any particular timetable to name this person, but it did seem to me while we're about the business of making this major change to our statutes with respect to language that we at least create this cabinet position, because I do think we need to go to a point where we have a cabinet level, what we're calling this legislation, Secretary of Language, Culture, and Community. That would do what I think we need to do at the Cherokee Nation, and what I intend to do, which is to reorganize our programs so that they are organizationally under one roof, not just physically under one roof. We think over the years we've developed different areas of the government where we're focusing on language, and I think we need to bring those together. I also think that our community programs often involve culture, as they should, and they often involve language outreach, as they should. And I think that those efforts all together organizationally is in the best interest of the Cherokee Nation. And finally, it does name both the legislation and the new language center after Durbin Feeling. And I think everyone on here knows Durbin. There's a lot of people that have made a major mark on our language preservation and revitalization efforts. You'd be hard-pressed, I think, to find one who's done more than Durbin Feeling. And in fact, I think he came up in the Culture Committee with respect to the dictionary you mentioned, Mr. Speaker. I can remember seeing that dictionary when I was a college student and seeing Durbin's name on it, and of course not knowing at that time who he was. I do now know who he is. And I think it's fitting to name both the legislation and the new facility after him. But Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to continue, but I do have Mr. Enlow, who's worked on this legislation, and of course Mr. Payton, who works in the language.
I think we're good, and Durbin Feeling's quite deserving. You said it best. He's a guy that's contributed so much, and we've got many more coming up. But Durbin right now is a good choice. That's a good call.
Mr. Speaker.
Having said that, so we have yes, Councilor Dobbins.
Just, is the immersion school still going to be at the?
The immersion school would be part of this, so that's one of the language programs that would be brought under this roof.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
I'd like to be added as a sponsor on this too.
Okay.
Same.
I would as well, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Councilor Coates? I think we got everybody. All right, good. Good job.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, number 13, Councilor Deere, you want to take that?
This is an act amending LA-12-19, Housing, Jobs, and Sustainable Communities Act of 2019. Put this in a form of motion.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
I'd like to be added as sponsor. Is that also, Mr. Chair?
also. I would.
Pretty much everybody.
At the house.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Get it,
everybody's
Mike,
in.
Shirley?
Rolling.
Sean too.
Number 14, Councilor Duncan, would you take that?
How should I introduce this?
Well, Jody's going to explain it. Why don't you introduce it? This is a discussion, possible action of tribal council travel expense policy that our chief financial officer and I discussed due to a tax issue there. So we made that remedy, I think. Jody, you want to explain that a little bit?
Yes, as some of you know, and some of you contacted me this last year when it was tax filing time, the tax law changes raised the standard deduction, and made some other changes, of course, and that eliminated some of you guys from being able to deduct your mileage off of your income. So this is just kind of an offset for that. It's been at $700 for, I don't know, probably 10 years or whatever. So it's just a change to kind of help offset some of that tax burden that you guys have had to pick up, raising it from $700 to $1,000 a month.
Okay. Discussion? Okay, need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you, Jody, appreciate you.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Before you get to the last item, before we finish this part, I would like to move to amend the agenda to add a number 16 item. And it's an amendment to the resolution that we already passed last month regarding the National Congress of American Indian Delegation. A couple of changes that Tara Lee will explain. We need to vote on amending the agenda.
Okay, that's to appoint the tribal delegates and alternates to NCAI.
Right.
And since cabinet level people qualify, we added a cabinet level person, Secretary of Veteran Affairs, correct?
Yes, sir. We
So all
also-
we're doing is adding our former Deputy Chief, Joe Crittenden, to this, correct?
We had two amendments, sir. One was to add the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and the second was to correct Counselor Buell Anglin, the former counselor, was still listed on that list, so we had to correct that.
Okay. First, let's take the motion to amend the agenda. We had a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, all opposed? Okay, now we'll go to, so the agenda's amended. We'll take care of 16. Council Dobbins, you want to take that?
This is discussion and possible action, formation of election reform work group.
Okay. And I think we took care of that. Names were submitted to Gail, and she has that. I think we ended up with eight members, maybe 9. So if you want to, what's that?
Council Dobbins has a list.
You have a list? Okay. How many were they?
Well, we can't have a quorum,
Sure.
so it has to be less than 9. And I don't know if Gail asked all 17 of you, but Gail submitted 8 names. They would be Sean, Crittenden, Keith, myself, EO, Julia, Joe Deere, Harley, and Canaan were the 8 that Gail handed to me.
Okay.
Now, if you're not one of those 8 and you wish to serve or be informed, we're going to inform the full council as we progress through this. So it's not like we're going to be withholding any information. Be fully informed, but I'm sure there'll be times all 8 of us won't be able to be there for each meeting. So if you desire to be there, if one of the 8 is not able to be there, I'm sure we can accommodate that.
Okay.
But that's the group, at least, that's been submitted. You voluntarily, with Gail, wanted to serve on this.
Okay.
I might add, Mr. Speaker, there's already been some communication with the Election Commission and the Attorney General's office. I think Chrissy briefly mentioned, actually said that, yes, there needs to be some work on this. So I think we got the Election Commission, the Attorney General's office that are going to be working in concert with us, because we all have our own experiences, and I think the result of our own experiences and our willingness to work, I think we'll make some informed decisions. But I feel like I was impacted by what happened to me 2 years ago, and so I feel strongly about this, and I know a lot of you do as well, that we can make our election process fair, more transparent, and that's the intent of
Sure.
this.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment? Yes, Councilman.
Is there a way that we can get a name of alternates put on there so that way we can get in contact with us if the 8 aren't showing up or one wants to move out? Because I'm not on that list. I definitely like to be on it, but obviously we're at max. So
Just get with Shelley and
Me
Gail
too.
and just submit your
I'm
name.
surprised I'm not on it.
I don't know, I think Gail just polled maybe the folks that were there, and
You
she got
submit your
8.
name to her,
Once she
yeah.
got 8, then we can't have more than 8. So,
I'm not on it. I don't want to be on it. Yes.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes, ma'am.
If it's appropriate, I was wondering, would there be value to creating this as a subcommittee instead? And in that case, we would not have to worry about the quorum. And if additional people wanted to be added, they could be. Would that be a possibility?
We're in discussion.
Personally, I would have some input too. I would like to have some input too on this. I have some ideas also, so I just would like to be able to express those at some point in time.
Mr. Speaker, what would be the logistics of going to a subcommittee as opposed to a work group?
Another meeting every month? Just be another meeting.
Yeah.
Just be-
To form the committee, all I have is a work group here for on the agenda. I'd like to address just what's on the agenda. We can discuss setting up another meeting if that's
Could you form 2 work groups?
There you go.
And then, Councilman Dobbins, who's bringing this forward, could attend both work group meetings, and then both of those 2 work groups' results can be mashed into one.
It's a good discussion. Anybody else?
Yeah, I like it.
As always,
I think you are skating dangerously close to open meetings. So we have less than quorum meetings all the time. But if you are preparing something in 2 different meetings and then putting it together and then bringing it forward, that gets close to a workaround.
Okay.
The only difference between 8 or 9, if you have 8, you can meet privately without posting an agenda, without being an open meeting. If you have 9, it becomes a subcommittee. Whether or not you call it that, if you have 9 people meeting, then you have to post your agenda and it's an open meeting. So it is how you want to
less
approach
rules
this.
with 8, and we got more leverage to meet as you feel.
But I would,
that
I
is the
would caution
advantage.
against 2 groups of 8 sharing one person trying to put something together.
And we're just in discussion
I know.
here, so throwing stuff out there. All right, anybody else? Councilor Craig?
Yeah. And if we ever want to get to the real bare bones of it, this council meets all 17 of us every month. So another option surely is we all just meet here and discuss the election, right?
Just as an agenda
You have to post
Right,
it.
right. So we don't want to leave that off the table. If everybody's got something to say, that's kind of why they pay us to come up here. We could all do it together. And I love the work group thing. So I didn't want to leave that option off the table. I mean, we're here to discuss.
I like the work group thing myself because I've got some recommendations, but I'm going to write those down and put my name on it and say, this is what I would recommend. That's how I'll handle that. I don't want to be involved in all the meetings. Yes, anybody else?
Tim?
Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Councilor Coates.
Yes. Mike, if I understood, the formation of a work group would not require the posting of an agenda 10 days in advance. Is that right?
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
That's correct.
My concern, since, I do come from California and I do want to attend in person as much as I can, is about getting enough advance notification of work group meetings so that I would be able to make arrangements with the other things I have going on in my life and have to, and make travel arrangements and so forth. So I would just bring that up as a concern. I don't know what the intent of the body is about, meeting times and so forth, or if there is any intent. I mean, I'm not trying to imply that, anything, but I just do have that as a concern about getting enough notice of meetings.
Yes, and your recommendation is noted, Councilor Coates, about forming a subcommittee. Yes, Tim?
Speaker, I think that the purpose of the work group is not to take action. I think that's what everybody's getting confused about, is the actual action will be the recommendation of the work group. I think the work group is going to be gathering information, gathering specific instances, different proposed ideas or recommendations for amendments. I think that's what the purpose of the work group is to actually do the work of collecting the data, collecting the information, trying to flesh out proposed amendments before we bring them before the whole council, at which point they would be discussed further and any additional changes And I think, as the speaker said, if you have specific instances, I know that everybody here has gone through either, one or multiple elections of things that you've been told that you would like to have addressed or at least be investigated or looked at. That way you can forward that information onto the work group. I think specifically, trying to have 2 work groups is, as the AG, pointed out, that you're skating dangerously close to effectively trying to get around your Open Meetings Act. And you're not accomplishing anything because ultimately, you don't need 2 different groups doing the same thing. All you're doing is gathering data. We don't need all 17 people to gather data. Whenever effectively you can submit your recommendations to that work group, and then they can further flesh them out before we bring them before the full council, where there will be further discussion. So nobody's going to be left out of the discussion and the action portion of it. It's just a matter of who wants to do the legwork. I think that's the idea of the work group, is who's actually going to be sitting in an extra probably hour meeting trying to discuss, well, how do we fix this? We've identified the problems. Speakers brought up two different issues. Councilman Deere brings up some issues. Each one of you probably all have issues. So you're looking at 30, 40, 50 different issues that we try to figure out. Is this addressed currently in the code? Do we need to address it? How can we address it? In what different formats? And I think that's the thing that the work group will be doing, is just considering those, trying to figure out what the best remedies are, and then bringing those specific ideas or proposed amendments, putting them into an amendment form and bringing them before the council for further discussion and possible action. So I think that's going to be the idea. I think does that clarify to everybody what exactly we're proposing here as far as a work group?
Yes, because these are recommendations that we will get from the work group, AG's office, election commission. But the final say-so comes back to this body right here.
And the final discussion. I mean, there's going to be discussion before any action is taken.
Sure.
So
That makes sense. Very, very well said. Okay, we're going to look at these, and yes, Councilor Critter.
Yeah, just to follow up, make sure I'm clear. So we can't have 2 separate groups because we can't have 2 separate groups, right?
well, you're doing the same thing. I mean,
Right.
Are you both going to be gathering? Does he need to give the speaker?
Well, we do it all the time. I mean, have 2 separate meetings to avoid a quorum. And
Okay.
But it's usually to receive information, not to.
right, and there have been discussions though
Not-
during those and
What I
questions asked.
understand is that this is the group that is going to attempt the council's first draft of changes.
Let me ask you this while I get clarification here. So if there were 2 groups, this group would come up with something, this group comes up with something that comes together, that's the slippery slope you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Let me ask you this.
And
So
actually, it's
if-
the
if-
drafting of it, because
You're effectively
that is
working
something
together.
that you have sole control over too. And if you're just breaking up groups
Right.
to avoid having a public discussion about it and coming up with a document, that is different than getting input on something. I mean, we're talking about drafting legislation and discussing changes to legislation, which is the primary authority of this body. And to do that outside of your regular meeting process is problematic.
So
And there would be no reason to have 2 different work groups. If all 17 people wanted to be part of it, or if greater than 8 wanted to be part of it.
that was my point
we
a while
would-
ago.
We would just
Right,
set the committee.
you bet. That would, or we talk about it right now.
Effectively, it's gonna take the same amount of
Yeah, that
time.
was my point.
I think that's
I
what
was
we're
asking
saying.
about speaker birds. He said, you're gonna give your input, right, to this work group of 8. Now, that's legal?
Probably, no.
Huh?
He should, if you're submitting written recommendations, it should probably go to one person to then share with the work group, because then we run into the issue of you have 9 or 10 people in an email and you start going back and forth.
No, they're gonna submit them to me,
Doing
and then I'm
business.
gonna be the one that's gonna take care of that. So I don't think that we're gonna have the council members, getting around anything. I think ultimately, we're just trying to save everybody from doing the legwork. And we're trying to get a consolidated group that can focus in on what the work aspect of it is. Ultimately, I'm going to be doing most of the work as far as the drafting and the researching, working with the AG's office, working with the election commission. So I think that's, to answer your question, if ultimately this group wants to have more than 8 people, then we need to put it back on the agenda at the next meeting to consider whether or not we want to establish a new committee.
So Speaker can't let the work group know what he wants to
He
do?
can give his recommendations, but he's not going to give a work product. And I think it's just the words, that are tripping her.
But they're all gonna give them to you.
I understand. what you're
Now, we've been a part of a lot of work groups, so I'm not trying to be hard-headed here. I'm trying to, usually the work group discusses stuff and go on, but since more people want to be a part of this, I'm just wanting to keep it clear and legal. So everybody here is going to send their concerns to you.
Correct.
Now, when we're in our work group, we don't get to know what West No Fire thinks in our work group.
why would I not tell you who?
Because all of that information is you, and West No Fire would be denying his information.
He's not participating in the group.
No, but he's given his information to you, but you can give his information as long as it's not on paper.
He can't even give it on paper.
He can?
Yeah, I don't think that's the.
And he can present it to us?
It's essentially trying to have a meeting without having a meeting is what raises the red
I
flag.
like that idea. If Harley and
We're not really
all
having
seven,
a
I like
meeting.
this idea that you will have everybody's thoughts on the council.
Right.
And it's legal for us 8 to know them thoughts. And then we come up with something collectively to give to all the entities that's going to be looking at it for the final legislation.
It'll come back to the full council.
It'll come back to the full council at this time.
If you remember, we brought back all the election recommendations and codes, and we hammered this out, I mean, for, I don't know how many days, and we made some recommendations, but there's more that we need to do. And we can handle it. I
Right.
mean,
And I just want to make
17
sure that
minds
everybody
here.
has input and obviously.
And if I call you and say, hey, this is, here's the ideas that I'm looking at, do you have anything to add? That doesn't violate anything other than me trying to get more information from you. And then I can call Councilman Deere and say, here's the things that we're looking at. It's going to be more legwork for me, but ultimately that's what a work group is. It's work. And we're trying to make sure that we get everything in order to save everybody else, that amount of time. The actual group of council members, they're going to be there for me to actively bounce these things off of. How do you want to do this? How do you want to propose? How do you want to word this? What exactly happened in this situation?
And we can ask you what Wes and Joe Bird and
Right.
what was
You
their
can call
take.
me and I can tell you.
Can you come to the meeting with that?
Come to the work group meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that there's no discussion between the two of you. It's a discussion between me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. I guess this work group.
And the thing is ultimately, all that information is going to come back to an open meeting, and that discussion will be, made public in a public meeting.
Well, this is just the first work group I've been a part of that there's gonna be 2 separate folks, Not everybody wants in on every work group, is what I'm trying to say. That's right. That's the difference between this one and the other.
But there's not going to be 2 separate work groups.
Right.
All right, we good?
Gotcha.
Okay, Councilman O'Flynn.
Just a quick question, why would we avoid a subcommittee? Because it sounds like we have quite a few names. I think that's what the clear.
We're not avoiding.
I'm not
it.
avoiding,
They'll
just,
just stay.
We would not avoid a subcommittee. It's a matter of time.
all right, gotcha.
We have to add an hour on to at least one of our meeting days.
Right.
Depending on how long, maybe 2 hours. Some of our committee meetings are 2 hours. So depending, it's just a matter of time and resources. How often do we need to do that? If we're gonna only meet 3 or 4 times and then we don't need to meet again, then there's no point to go through the.
But just know there's 2 meetings a lot of times. So the time thing,
Well, the timing's it's not the biggest, no, he's just asking what the factors are.
Right.
But the thing is if we meet, say 6 times, and we hammer it out and we decide these are the amendments that we're gonna do, what are we gonna do? And then we bring it to the council agenda and then we pass it, we've still got that committee, do we need to dissolve the committee at that point? Does that make sense? Because, at that point, do we still need to meet? Are we gonna consider ongoing every month? Most of our committees are every month. We have reports, people come in and give reports, because these are ongoing issues.
Sure.
But if this is something that's gonna be, fixed, maybe we need to have it once every 4 years, based on election cycles. Because the thing is it seems like every election cycle, there's new issues that come up.
I think I'm clear. Sorry, I interrupted you. Will.
All right. Are we all clear?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Counselor Dobbins.
Just for clarification, if we go the subcommittee route, then all our discussions are going to be online, correct?
Uh-huh.
So if we go study group or work group, then we're not online.
Correct.
Okay.
But I don't think that we're going the work group route intending to avoid public scrutiny. I
Right.
think it's more to be more efficient in everything else's time. Because if we're just trying to work things out, do we really need all 17 people here to try to prepare an unfinished or a rough draft? Or do we want to go ahead and have the full committee and then spend a lot of time to try to, because I mean, this is probably going to be multiple issues.
Sure.
I can imagine that there's probably going to be, Speaker's got two issues that he wants to address. You've got at least one. I'd be willing to bet that every council member has at least one.
There's every council member is probably going to have at least one
Yeah, at least
issue.
one. So you're gonna have-
But they may be redundant by what the other two groups recommend. So, it's going to work out. Well, I think we're making it more complicated than what it is.
Final comment.
All right, let's get this thing moved. Yeah, Counselor Dobbins.
If we go the work group route, my intent is to have exhaustive minutes, keep record and minutes, whereas previous work groups, we didn't keep minutes a lot of times.
That'll be up to you guys.
Yeah, so if we have a meeting now and then 30 days later, we have the next meeting, sometimes my memory gets fuzzy on what we agreed to 30 days ago.
Bring your lunch and get it ironed out. That's all I can say.
Thanks, Speaker.
Yes. Okay, we have all right, Counselor Austin.
Third or fourth time.
Go for it.
One of the important reasons why a work group may be better for this purpose is because of the flexibility issue. If you have a subcommittee, we're going to have minutes, we're going to have agendas, we're going to have 10-day notice, right? Yes. With a work group, if we are working on an issue and we say, gosh, we've made such progress, can we all meet tomorrow again? See, we couldn't do that with a work group because we'd be dealing with posting agendas and stuff. It gives us flexibility to actually work much quicker once we're on the task, and then present to the whole body in public for consideration any product that we have.
Yeah, in the luxury that we have as council members is you have all these work groups, you have all of the AG's office, the election commission. It still has to come back here for your review. You get to vote yes or no.
We also theoretically could meet in Catoosa or Stillwell for this.
Or Nycut, we could meet almost anywhere.
Can we?
Yes.
So we
Having said
theoretically
that,
could
we
meet
have a
different
motion
places that
and a
don't have the,
second here.
Technology.
Okay?
What's the motion?
What are we voting on?
No motion, okay, no motion. This is what we gotta take care of. We do have that one item, amended agenda. Let's take care of that.
Secretary, it's the agenda item that's been motioned to the second.
Okay, all right. The one that we're doing on the amendment to resolution, did we make a motion on that?
No.
Okay, I need a motion on this. NCAI delegate.
I move.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Okay, I explained it 30 minutes ago. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay. Any announcements? Counselor Duncan.
Mr. Speaker, was the work group voted on? Did we approve that?
There's nothing to vote on.
There's really
No,
nothing to
vote
vote
on?
on.
It was discussion only.
Discussion
Discussion
only.
only.
But we know
Okay.
who the eight were because you read it.
Okay, come back later to actually.
I got the floor now, Speaker.
Yes, you do.
Durbin Fillings' family, some of his family's here in the audience. I'd like for them to stand and be recognized. And I think Russell's here as well, and we all know that Durbin's ill. And if Russell has anything he'd like to say on this day, I'd like for him to have that opportunity.
Russell, he won't. He's a dooley.
Well, at this point, all of us are very thankful for people involved, but recognizing Durbin's work as
Most Indians don't like them.
Yeah.
He's used to talking.
Okay, my name is Russell Phelan. I'm Durbin's brother, and Chris, his wife. And we're just thrilled to know that Durbin's efforts in the language was recognized enough to have the honor of what you presented today. And we just thank you for the council, everybody that was involved. And we're getting it, and in the process of getting this done. I want to thank you for that.
Chris?
Thank you. Thank you for that honor, because he deserves it.
Oh, you? All right. Anything else? Well done, Russell. Chris, well done. Any more announcements? Yeah, Councilor Vasquez?
No.
Okay, we good, everybody? Okay, I'll make a motion, I'll give you a motion.